Hello and welcome to Nightbreed Metal Radio, the extended February edition, where I share the visuals for some interviews that featured on the audio podcast. Four bands this week. We've got Olde, Filth, Our Last Enemy, Old Throne, and Sydney's Dirt City. So plenty to listen to. So grab yourself a drink. I'm on the Jip Dog Juicies today. Sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Dirt City's debut self-titled EP came out August 2023. And Nishan from the band talks to me about, songwriting, getting into the like Nine Inch Nails, Filter, industrial sort of indie 90s sound, which Dirt City are heavily influenced by. And we get into it. So here it is.
This project probably started, the seeds of it started probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So I was playing in a couple of metalcore bands around then, thrash metalcore, that sort of thing. And while it's awesome, it wasn't where my head was headed anymore. So we were playing all this really tight, quantized, pumped, all this perfect sounding music that was just, to me, too robotic. And so I had an inkling to like fuzz it up a bit more, get more mistakes in my music, more bends that sounded weird, all that sort of thing. And that's kind of where Dirt City came from. So I got my fuzz pedals out and decided, all right, let's just try and make a few riffs. Then it turned into songs. Then got Warren, who was a singer in my other band as well, involved. He loved the idea. And so it just went from there, really. And this all went, the first riff started coming about 5 years ago. Met our producer, Nathan, probably in the middle of COVID. And so everything got stopped and wrangled when that was all happening. But end of the day, from start to finish, about 4 or 5 years. But it really got kicking once we got Nathan involved, and then the whole band built around that and built our show around that as well. So that's where we are.
Yeah, cool, man, cool. So how's the songwriting work? You're saying you had the riffs and then the other guys kind of bring stuff to that? Is that sort of how it goes? Or?
Yeah, it's pretty much, it started out me and Warren. So I came up with arrangements for most of the tracks from the EP, and then talked to Warren about this idea I was having about something a bit more raw, a bit more human in what it sounds like. And he took it on as well. He took my demos, put his vocals on top. Then from there on, we decided let's slowly build from here. And so we got Nathan Sheehy involved as a producer on that. Went into huge pre-production with him, chopped and changed, rewrote a few parts, cut the fat here and there, and then really, I guess, concentrate on the songcraft side of things. And we really honed in about taking away, I guess, all the histrionics, like all the big solos, the big shred things, or the big noises, or big epic parts. We just put it straight down the middle, concentrate on the songwriting. And once we got all the songs ready, we built the band around that. And so we another guy who used to play with a long time ago was Jono Chelsea. And so he came in on bass, he brought in a drummer, and we all just built the band from there, really. And now with everyone's different point of view, we've got a really different sounding sort of band and concept and way forward now. And it's real pumping along.
Yeah, cool. How'd you get together with Nathan and like Grant Barry mastered it, right? How'd you get together with those two guys?
That's right. So when we got the demos ready, we kind of thought we don't really want to go with a metal producer, an out and out metal producer, because we're from that world. And so we really wanted to get a different spin on it, a different perspective on what we could do with these songs. Again, we didn't want to make it straight down the line, this is a metal album. We wanted to see how we could branch out, see what else we could do with the tracks. And so we spoke to a bunch of producers, and Nathan was just like keen as. He kept on giving us calls and was very interested in getting involved with the project. And from then on, we met up with him, had a few chats with him, had an initial session with him where we just watched him do his thing in Pro Tools and have a go at stuff. And we were like, wow, in that short space of time, you just completely refreshed this track. And so to me, that's kind of what you need in a producer, that fifth set of eyes, I guess, and ears that come along and say, there's a few things we can do with this, and take it to a place we never saw that could be. And so, so we decided not to go with the straight metal scene, and someone who's more on the rock and gritty side of things, and that really fit where we were going with.
Yeah, cool. And then Squelch, you got the first the video out. How'd that come together? That looks cool, the flashing and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that all came together. So we found a director called John Young, and we've seen a bit of work that he's done before, and really wanted to give it a sort of a sterile slash crime vibe to the whole video clip. And we
Hmm.
thought he could bring that too. An interesting side note is Warren writes all the lyrics for the music, and his point of view with the lyrics for the song is a psychopath who goes around making skin suits out of this one person, fantasizing about that. That's what that song's about.
Okay. Yeah.
And we've tried to figure out how can we do that in not such an R-rated way. And we thought, as always, budgets come into it as well. But we had a chat to John about what he could do with that sort of concept and getting that sort of grittiness, that sterile sort of crime-related vibes, kind of Nine Inch Nails type movement, clips included, and with the lights going on and off, kind of with an element of rock in there. We really like how Kai still a lot of those videos, and probably not easily seen how that is incorporated in our videos, but a few of the spiral imagery that we try to put in was kind of camera work methods that they would employ back in the 90s. And so we thought, and yeah, John came up with all those ideas and how we could give that sort of vibe to it. And like what he had, like how he storyboarded it, and we thought this sounds great. And so, yeah, a day in his studio, I think it's called Alchemist Studio in Sydney,
Hmm.
just pumping away, take after take after take. And I don't envy those guys, man. Who sit there doing all that sort of thing. But yeah, end result, smashed it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you mentioned Nine Inch Nails, and like I definitely get that 90s, filter vibe. Are those bands that you guys are all sort of collectively into?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I guess my sort of initial perspective of it was when I was a kid, like 12, 13, my favorite CD then was Astro Keep 2000. And
Yeah.
so that's got all that synth, electronic, sampley sort of vibe in it. And so that's where my angle came from it. But with Ron singing, and then with the other guys who put their elements on top,
Hmm.
yeah, we really try to bring out that Nine Inch Nails compressed drums, but also the dirty synth on top that sits on top. And yeah, we're picking up the filter vibe a lot. I never really got into filter back in the day, and now since everyone's been telling me, I was like, geez, yeah, that's
Mhm.
an influence too.
Yeah,
Dig it.
cool. So I've only heard Squelch and Death in the Desert. What's in store for us for the rest of the EP? Like, how many tracks are we talking?
So we've got 6 tracks,
Okay.
and so the next, so yeah, so as you would have seen, Squelch is that more industrial style.
Hmm.
Death in the Desert is that more old school hard rock, hard metal, alt metal sort of
Hmm.
vibe with that sort of world music flavor on it as well. With a bit more of that world music stuff coming in with a few big ethereal breakdowns with even flamenco guitars,
Hmm.
big use of percussion in a couple of tracks. Then we have some straight up and down driving alt rock, alt metal style tracks as well. And then a few ones that give a little bit of nod to White Zombie as well, because that's where I'm from. That's my thing. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to push that vibe as well. And also the next when we do release the EP next Friday, we're going to be showcasing the cover we did. So we made a cover of Billie Eilish's song "You Should See Me in a Crown," and so it's more along the Squelch vibes where we're really trying to industrialize it. When we first heard it, we could always tell there's a subtle metal thing going on there, and we really want to try to accentuate that and really take that to extreme. So really excited to show that to everyone because that's going to be something different on something a lot of people have heard before on the pop charts.
Yeah, cool. I'm talking about different guitars and that kind of thing. Has Dirt City played shows, and if so, are you picking up a flamenco guitar on stage? Like, how's that going to work?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So we've got our launch show on the 24th, and
Hmm.
so we've been rehearsing like crazy for that. And the other problem is, yeah, we need these flamenco guitar type sounds, but also with Nathan, he's got a lot of synths in the studio, and we decided to really put some gritty synths on a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
So even though we came out of the studio really happy, we were scratching our heads, going, how the hell do we do this live? And so I thought again, talked to one of the other band guys I used to play with as well, Luke, and he knows guitar gear and guitar technology amazingly well. And so said to him, "Hey, we got these songs. I just want to do that down the line riffing. What can you do to make these synth sounds come alive when you play it live?" And he worked it out, man. And he is playing riffs with me, but underneath that, he's somehow controlling a synth, doing something as well. And he's made that sound really cool.
Okay. Yeah.
From my point of view, for those songs that have, like even with Death in the Desert, we've got a sitar intro, and then we have acoustic guitars, and then we have big heavy guitars as well. For me to play all of that, what I use is a guitar that has a pickup, normal guitar pickup output, and it's also got a piezo pickup in it too.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I route that through my rig and make that sound more like an acoustic, the piezo side of it. And when I need to get heavy, I just flick the switch, and then there we are on the heavy sound. So I think when the audiences hear it, they're going to be pretty surprised about the types of tones we're going to be getting, because I think we're pretty much hitting all the tones we got on the record. So it should be fun.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So away from Dirt City for a minute, what are you listening to lately, other than Filter, of course, you're saying?
Yeah. Right now, biggest thing I'm really keen on right now is the new Mutoid Man album. Have you checked that one out yet?
No, I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, it's produced by Kurt Ballou, and it's the same vein in what Dirt City is trying to accomplish, I think, where I heard that Kurt just got the band playing live in a room. There's not double or triple track guitars. It's just what's his name? Stephen Brodsky, I think it is, just riffing away with the whole band who are just epic at their instruments. And you just see the musicianship shine through. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here as well. So that's probably one of the big ones. Going through the whole back catalogue of Nine Inch Nails, since everyone's telling me about Nine Inch Nails again. So yeah, back on Downward Spiral, of course, and then their first one as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
No, cool.
Yeah.
So you got the launch show planned. What's next for Dirt City after this EP's out, you know?
Yeah, so we got after the launch show happens, we've done a few kind of interesting things, to be honest. As we were talking about before, I got that piezo guitar sound doing all the acoustic stuff. One time in rehearsal, we're just messing about. I start playing just heavy songs with the acoustic sound. Ron starts singing, and it's actually sounding pretty good. So what we decided to do is an unplugged version of the whole EP. So a few weeks back, we went into Fox Sound Studio in Manly, in Brookvale, sorry, and got a videographer involved as well, Gary Compton, and we're going to be releasing this on Spotify as a side EP and also a live video too of a full acoustic session with us. And then after that, once that's all flowing through, one of the bands we're playing with for our launch is Hawker, and we're keen to do a regional tour around New South Wales, and so just going to be organising that, getting a few shows outside of Sydney, getting drumming up some support around there, and yeah, see where and then after that, as we talked about, these songs have been there for a while. We've got a lot more songs, and we're about to get into pre-production again with Nathan, hopefully in October, November. So no rest. It's a lot more work to be done.
Next up, we have Old Throne. I talked to Harrison, the man behind Old Throne. It's a black metal project out of New Zealand. Real kind of old school, atmospheric black metal that's inspired by Celtic history and Celtic people, the themes and the lyrics, that kind of thing. So yeah, here he is. This is Old Throne. So one of your t-shirts, on the back it says organic black metal. What exactly does that entail?
I only made like 10 of those. They what does that mean? It's, I guess, just a reference to the sound. Trying to mimic the traditional 90s sound. Nothing overproduced. I think at the time when I wrote that, it was also to do with the fact that like in the Atmo Black scene at the moment, which is funny because that was before the first album, and now I have gone that way. So many bands weren't sticking to the traditional makeup of just guitar, bass, drums, and vocals.
Sure.
Like there's so much stuff going on now when you have bands like Sir with violins and flutes and lots going on. When I originally started, when I started, I sort of wanted to do that, and I didn't really know how to do that. So I was kind of like, fuck it, I'll do something old school. And the first album had no non-traditional instruments on it at all. And yeah, I think that's when I was like, keep it organic was my wording for that sort of traditional makeup of what metal is. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Talking about the early on, so 2021, and Tour came out. The demo is that. Did you start doing Old Throne 2021 as well, or does it kind of go back earlier than that?
I think it started when me and Quentin, who played drums on the latest album, started talking. We had a friend put us in touch, and I think that was early 2021. It might have been late 2020. That whole thing started by initially we just met up for a beer and talked about doing some covers.
Okay.
We had some just for the sake of jamming, because he was in a band for a long time that he wasn't super into the subgenre that they were playing. And that the same sort of thing happened to me as well, because in Christchurch you're a bit limited to your options. If you want to play metal, you sort of have to accept what subgenre you're going to be in, because there's not a whole lot to choose from, which that was my thinking at the time. But it turns out I'm actually very wrong about that, because now I know that there's like 5 good black metal bands in Christchurch that I didn't know about at the time. So we met up and we just wanted to have a jam, and we started playing like just not really some bad covers. So we only jammed like once trying to cover Transylvanian Hunger and an Emperor song. I can't remember which one, but then I had just played the Antor riff, and that's sort of what ended up becoming project.
Yeah, cool. And lots of the lyrical themes is kind of like Celtic histories, that kind of thing. Was that a choice early on, or is that just something like that you're interested in?
Yeah, that was a choice early on, because I think I had come up with wanting to do something like that long before it actually turned into a black metal project. Like I had when I was living in Scotland, I lived in Glencoe, which is where the song that Antor is about, the Glencoe massacre. And I worked in a pub. I didn't have a guitar with me, and in my days off work, I'd go for walks, listen to podcasts, some Scottish history podcasts and stuff like that. And I wanted to do something themed by it at the time, but I didn't know what. So I just wrote what I don't want to call it poetry. I just wrote some stuff down. It wasn't intended to be lyrics at the time. And then it wasn't till we, like a year later, started jamming that I started using those lyrics. And then when we were talking about names, that's just basically the way that the concept ended up going. But in hindsight, my biggest regret is not calling it Old Throne AULD, because that's Scots way of spelling. So I made a fatal mistake there, but done now.
And Gone to More came out February 2022.
Yep.
And that's just you, right? Like that's without Quentin, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was like just trying to get Quentin to, at that time, Quentin had he's got 2 kids, and I think his youngest was only 3. So he had quite a lot on at the time. So just trying to get some drums down for even Antor was quite a mish, because actually I think he didn't even have the equipment to record at that time at home.
Okay.
So yeah, like a few months go by, it was hard to even record a demo, and like I had so much ideas coming out. At that point I'd written like 6 songs, and I really wanted to. He was still Old Throne for me, but I wanted to. I was a little bit too keen. I wanted to get some momentum going. So I talked to him about it first before getting a session drummer in, because the way all the demos worked was that I was writing program drums and then just sending them through to him or whatever, or just using the program drums to learn the tracks. So yeah, I talked to him about using a session drummer where, a professional, where I could get it like a 1-week turnaround for drum tracks. Originally I was just going to do 2 songs. So Angora More was going to be a 2-song EP, so that I could mostly I wanted to stake claim to the name. So I wanted to release something just to establish that the band was taken, because there's no point. I didn't want to like make social media and stuff like that, but have no music, because I've done that like with 5 other projects that ended up turning into nothing. You make a name and you make the social media pages and you tell all your friends to follow it, and then you do nothing with it. So I wanted to get like at least 2 songs ready and good to go first. So I did that. But then I got them, and it was also kind of an experiment too, because I'd never sent something away to be mixed properly. So I wanted to learn how that works, like sending multiple tracks away for someone else to mix and then get it mastered, and have some professional sounding songs. So I just did it with the 2 songs first, which was Angora More Part 1 and 2. And then, I got them mixed and mastered. And then those came back to me, and I sent that away to Natamarkt on a whim. And because of the time difference, did that, went to bed, woke up in the morning, I had an email back from Rob, and I was really surprised about that. So, and he had said that he was really keen, but that EPs don't sell as well as albums when it comes to the physical copies. So I was like, I actually have like 5 other songs, so I could just turn it into an album. So that's how I ended up sort of sandwiching the songs between Angora More Part 1 and Part 2. And it turned into an album, and had a different drummer, and do all those songs turn around quite quickly. So yeah, that album sort of just accidentally happened because of the conversation between me and Rob from Natamarkt.
Yeah, that's cool. And so did those extra tracks, did you get the same person to mix and master those other ones as well?
Same person to mix and master, but it's 2 different drummers.
Yeah.
Because the drummer who plays on Part 1 and Part 2, he is a session musician, but he's the drummer of Moonspell. So he's kind of expensive. So to get 5 more songs done, I didn't really want to fork out the money for it. So I got someone else to do them. Hemir, who has gone on to do heaps of other stuff. But he was just sort of starting off session work at the time. So I got a pretty good deal from him. Yeah.
Cool. And what's that process like? Because I've only ever fumbled through mastering myself. What kind of input do you have when you give someone your tracks and say, like, I've got this sound in mind? Like, how does that work?
With Jonsson, really good, because it's hard when I'm in New Zealand because he's in Sweden.
Yeah.
He did the second album too, and that was way easier because we were both in Sweden at the time.
Oh, cool.
But when I was in New Zealand for the first album, it was pretty good. The time difference made it difficult, but yeah, he would send me a mix. So basically, I sent him all the stems, even though I had my own, and I sent him also my demo mixes so that he could sort of hear for where the levels are supposed to be at to me.
Yeah.
And he'd quickly put them together And then it was just a constant back and forth communication of me saying, I think the snare needs to be quieter, etc. And then probably about, I can't remember what it was for the first album, how many times that went back and forth. I think I was quite easy to please on the first album because I'd never done this before, so I was like, he probably fucking knows way better than I do anyway. So I was just taking his word for everything.
Okay.
This second album, I was being a little bit more pedantic, where even when something was just slightly too loud or too quiet, I would still let him know about it, and that worked out really well. But yeah, it's just a case of if you've got, it depends who you have, I guess. I've only used him, but I think using other people, it tends to be that they make their mix, and you might only get 2 or 3 revisions. Whereas yeah, it's definitely a teamwork process when it comes to Janssen. That's why I've continued to use his services.
Yeah. So we talked. You mentioned it earlier, the latest album, In the Land of Ghosts. How did you get together with Janssen for that? So did you record over there as well, or did you just record here in
Yeah,
New
but it
Zealand?
recorded like the same way that I recorded it in New Zealand. It was still just all recorded at home. Well, in my girlfriend's dad's home.
Okay.
My partner's from Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at her place, a lot of it recorded down in the basement. The vocals recorded and were recorded in the basement of his house.
Mm.
So still all just recorded on my laptop. The first album, I sent him like the guitar DI tracks, and he reamped them as well.
Yeah.
So he used his own amp on the first album, but that's quite a painful process, so it has a extra fee on it. So I actually didn't end up doing that in the second album because I wasn't working while I was in Sweden, not full time anyway. So I didn't. I had a smaller budget, so I just used VST on the second album.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's like that whole second album, very minimal equipment is necessary to record something like that. It's just my guitar interface and laptop.
Mm.
And Quentin set up. Quentin back in New Zealand recording the drums, of course. On his end, he needed he's got quite a big kit, so he needed a lot of microphones. But other than that, it's almost anyone can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So you got a video for the Greyfriars Kirkyard. Is that a place, like that graveyard? Like, is that the name?
Yeah, it's
of
in
the place? Edinburgh. Yeah, right. Okay. And what's
Yeah,
the
so I
story
was there
behind
in
that song?
January.
Yeah, okay.
There's quite a few stories behind it. If you don't know much about it, I'd suggest Googling Greyfriars Kirkyard ghost stories, because it's the most haunted graveyard in the world, apparently. It's been inspiration for quite a few authors, like Arthur Conan Doyle and J.K. Rowling. There's a Thomas Riddell is one of the tombstones, which is where J.K. got the Tom Riddle idea from. It's where I filmed some of that. Actually, I'm not sure if any of it ended up in the music video because it's locked during the day. But a part of that graveyard is the Covenanters prison. The Covenanters were locked up in this prison inside the graveyard, and the conditions there, because it's like it's kind of hard to describe this prison inside of a graveyard. So of course it's all open. Sorry for pausing so much. I'm trying to think.
Fine,
There's so much. There's so much that can be said about that it's hard to think of the sequence of how to talk about it. But the beneath the soil of that area is a lot of human remains still. When they get heavy rain, you still get the odd bone pop up. because around 1,300 prisoners died in that prison. And that area is locked off during the day because of probably genuine reasons, but folklore wise, it's to do with some poltergeists and a particular event in the 90s where like a homeless man was trying to find somewhere to sleep. So he went in to what was called the Black Mausoleum. That's where George Mackenzie, the man who basically was in charge of the prisoners at the time and treated them terribly. And that's where he was buried. And now he's known as the Mackenzie Poltergeist because, yeah, this homeless man went to sleep in there. And he ended up falling through the floor. And as far as this is only 1992 or something, but the story is that he ended up, no one knows what happened to him, but inside there, but he ran out screaming, and then they checked it the next day, and he had uncovered also a bunch of people that they didn't know were there that were buried during the plague times. Excuse me, during the plague. So that's probably another good reason why it's locked up now, because it has plague bodies buried beneath it.
Yeah.
But so the area that I wanted to film in was inside the prison, but there's only one tour company that you can actually get inside the prison there. I think in the music video you'll see a padlock, so that's the gates for where that prison is. But yeah, you can only get inside there with a certain tour company. And that tour didn't kick off until 7 p.m. in winter, so it was like dark when we went in there. So I did try and take some videos, but you couldn't see anything.
Yeah, sure. I'm talking about ghosts and stuff. Obviously, the cool stories and everything. Is the spiritual, like, do you believe in ghosts and that kind of stuff, or are you
No.
just kind of no? Yeah, me
I
either.
think
Just,
it's cool.
it's interesting.
Yeah,
Right?
I think it's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I like it. I mean, I love horror movies and stuff.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
I like paranormal stuff. I don't believe it's real.
Yeah.
But like a place like Greyfriars Kirkyard is, I guess, in that sense, that one of the coolest places you can go for that sort of thing, because it's like the Hollywood idea of a graveyard. You know, these tombstones from the 1800s actually have like old school skull and crossbones plaques on the tombstones. It's weird. It's like something from a movie set, and it's weird when you think that this is actually from like 1820 and earlier, even in the 1700s. But I guess there was a bit more of a celebration around the whole burial thing back then.
Yeah. Another track on the album, I'm probably saying it wrong. Isobel. It's
just Isabel, like the name Isabel.
Yeah, cool.
It's just the Scottish way of spelling it.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, so it's got a whole kind of like folk thing going on in there. Is that like a traditional song in there or something, or have you written like a folk sounding thing for that?
No, it's not from a traditional folk song. It's sort of, Isabel ended up being what I initially pictured Old Throne to be. Like I mentioned earlier. Initially I wanted to do something like say or even some of the earlier enslaved stuff when they have more traditional instruments involved. But like I said, I didn't know how to do that when it was the first album. When it came to actually basically the whole album in the Land of Ghosts, I tried several different session musicians. And for that one, I worked with Stavro from Greece, who makes actually mostly music for video games.
Okay.
And so yeah, I sort of wrote I had like a acoustic guitar demo version of it, sent that to him, and then he made what ended up being the folk section. But but no, other than that, it's an original composition. One of the riffs in there is kind of stolen from Candlemass, but yeah, no traditional folk songs in there.
Yeah, cool. Away from Old Throne for a minute. What are you listening to lately?
Lately I've been listening to the new Immortal album.
Oh yeah.
A fair bit. For the last year or more, I've been listening to a lot of the there's another band on the same label, Python. I've become good friends with the guy behind that project. He's also you might have heard of I don't know how to say the name properly, Martis Mieli, Finnish band. Xanabal from that project, he obviously doesn't really sleep because he has Python, Martis Mieli, and Samala. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's probably going to watch this, so it'd be interesting to see what he says about that. And he's got another Dungeon Synth project. But I think Python's my favorite of his, but they've only made he's only made an EP with that project. But I've listened to that EP. I want to say that I listened to that EP probably at least once a week for the last year, maybe year and a half. It came out, I think, in 2021, before the first Old Throne album anyway.
Okay.
So that's definitely heavy rotation for me. A lot of Mork.
Yeah, cool.
It's a hard question to put on the spot because I listen to a lot of music. I probably listen to about 10 hours of music a day. If I work as a barber, so if I'm not at work, it's my main form of entertainment. I don't really watch Netflix or anything. I'm usually, if I'm doing something like playing games or something like that, it's only for something to stare at while I listen to music. You know, that's the main form of entertainment for me. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So with Old Throne, do you have plans to bring it to the stage at all? Like,
it's just been hard because during the first year, during that Angora Moor time, Quentin wouldn't have been able to commit to that because I couldn't even manage to get him to play drums on the first album. I'm sure he would have wanted to, but it was a case of me being impatient. But yeah, if I couldn't get that to happen, then getting together to play a live set would have been even harder. And then we didn't want to commit to really even trying because at that time I knew that I was going to be going to Sweden in like a year from now. At that time, and then I went to Sweden with the intention for that to be a permanent move, but I didn't want to get anything to set up there until I knew my permanent situation. If I could get like a work permit and stay there long term, so I didn't want to get anybody else involved until then.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So I ran out of my visa and now I'm back in New Zealand. And now that I'm back here and my partner's still over in Sweden. So I'm not staying in one place at the moment. It's been way too hard to get anyone else involved. And I don't know when that's going to end.
Yeah, that's tough, man.
So for now, it's going to be a studio project only.
Yeah, no worries. Well, so what are the plans for Old Throne going forward as a studio project? Like, are you writing for another release at some point?
Yeah, I've just been recording guitars all day today, actually, because in a couple of months we'll release Split with another band, and that'll just have 3 Old Throne songs on it. And I guess sort of as soon as I'm done with that, then that's when I'll start writing for the 3rd album.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
and I guess you can't say, but is that another band on the label? Is that the link? Yeah, nice.
Another band on the label.
Yeah, it's always Have you got a sort
Yeah.
of projected date for that or something, you know?
The European summer, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Cool.
I think we'll release it ourselves.
Okay.
Initially, earlier, and then the label might release it like just a cardboard sleeve CD a few months down the track from after we self-release it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That sounds good, man.
But I'm really excited about that one because I actually started working on this before the release of In the Land of Ghosts.
Okay.
Because that album was finished, mastered, like ready to go. Probably, I want to say by October last year. It's just it had been sitting, so there was about 4 months there where it's just sort of waiting for the release. And yes, I've been working on this in the interim.
Yeah, cool. And with your writing, are you like collating, you know, stories and folklore and stuff like that in the meantime to kind of go, okay, I want something about this, you know?
Yeah, I've sort of always been thinking ahead with it because even when we started the project, I had an idea for concepts for individual albums. You know, I'd be thinking in albums, not in songs. So I actually started writing when the project started. The main inspiration was what the theme for In the Land of Ghosts. And I actually had that artwork made before the album was ready. So actually before Angora More. The artwork used for In the Land of Ghosts is older than the artwork for Angora More. Because originally, you know, Angora More was going to be an EP and In the Land of Ghosts would be the album, like the debut album. And then because of like the way that it happened that I told you, Angora More turned it into an album. So yeah, initially that would have been like I thought, establish the sort of Scottish theme and then just do a little side release about the Irish famine. Because when I thought of that, I could be wrong, but looking around on YouTube, looking around on Spotify, I was kind of surprised that there wasn't a black metal themed concept album about the Irish famine yet. So I thought that needed to be done. And that's why that was just going to be a side release. And then, yeah, I've had the idea for the third Old Throne album, which initially when I first pitched this, it would have been the second. But yeah, I've had the idea for what will be the third for a long time. And I guess I won't reveal too much about that because I haven't even started writing the music yet. But, you know, in the logo, you have the cromlech on top. But so far, none of the music, I guess, except from Skara Brae goes beyond that. But none of the music's actually from a time going back that far. Like a lot of the stuff in the Land of Ghosts is sort of 1600s onwards, except for Skara Brae, because that's like Neolithic. But yeah, so it's going to be older than the previous two albums in theme. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And are you expecting sort of next year, maybe the next album?
Hoping so. Initially, I thought like an album a year. Because like I spent the whole year working on an album. That's why it's weird when I hear the dates, because in my head I'm thinking that Angora More is 2021 and In the Land of Ghosts is 2022. But that's because I spent those years working on those albums. But at the moment, when I think about it, I would have already been almost finished the writing for In the Land of Ghosts by this time last year. And I haven't even started for the third album yet. So it's hard to say if it will be out next year, but I hope so, but I'm not going to rush it at the same time.
Yeah, fair enough, man. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, look, Harrison, thanks heaps for your time. I'm definitely looking forward to you know, the EP and the album, and In the Land of Ghosts. It's got a great sound, man. Nice work. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Have a good one. Cheers.
Yeah, you too. Cheers, man. See you later.
Yeah, if you like your moody black metal, check out Old Throne. I like that album that came out. last year. Up next, back in Oz, another Sydney band, Our Last Enemy. This is an industrial sort of groove metal band that's been around since 2006. They brought out an EP last year, As Within, So Without, and Matt and I talk about it. Here he is. This is Our Last Enemy.
It was 2006. What prompted what was going on in Sydney that prompted the start of Our Last Enemy?
So we, a few of us were in a couple of different bands at the time that sort of came to an end at the same time.
Yep.
And Oliver and I had a mutual friend who sort of said, "Hey, your band's, winding up. Their band has finished. Why don't you guys sort of get in contact with each other?" So I messaged Ollie back on MSN when that was still around, and we had sort of the same sort of interests in music and same sort of kind of outlook on what we wanted to do with a band. And so we got together, we jammed a few things. A couple of the guys that I was with in the previous band also came along, and we just started jamming and kind of feeling each other out on what we liked and what we didn't like. And before you knew it, we had a few songs in the can, and we just started considering it a band and just started playing shows. So that's how it all sort of came about. It was a dissolution of other bands, mutual friends, and sort of starting all over again.
Yeah, cool. And then 2010, you guys put out your first release, Fallen Empire, as an album.
Yep.
Out through Riot Entertainment. You got some pretty good company there, like Fozzy, Mortal Sin, Voyager back then. How'd you get together with Riot Entertainment?
That's a good story. So we got there through some PR people that we were working with at the time. Mm-hmm. They were in contact with the people at Riot and kind of said, "Hey, we've got this group that's on our books. This is what they've done. They've worked with Christian from Fear Factory at the time, who produced the album, and they're looking for a label." We had a few meetings with them. We had a few chats, and it all just sort of fell into place at the time.
That's cool. Yeah, that was another question. How'd you get together with Christian as well, obviously?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. So we had, I had him as a friend on Facebook, and he had put up a post about producing albums, and I can't remember who he was talking about. I want to say it was Nemec at the time, and he just talked about producing and whatnot. So on a whim, I messaged him and said, "We're looking for a producer for our album. Sort of, do you take sort of interests from outside of your sort of circle? And we'd love to work with you, yada, yada, yada." Didn't hear anything for ages, to the point where we kind of, I forgot about it. And all of a sudden, I got a message back from him. He had listened to a few of the sort of demos I sent along as well. Said he was really interested, and we just started talking about where we were heading, what we were talking about. He said that it'd be great if we went over there and recorded it with him in his studio. So we talked about it. We realized it was something we could do financially, and we flew over there, and we actually lived with him as well for about 4 or 5 weeks. We recorded at his studio, and then we also recorded at the studio that Raymond, his drummer, also owned with B-Real from Cypress Hill. So we went down there and recorded some drums and some guitars down there as well. And yeah, man, it was a great experience. He was pretty tough. Not tough as in a hard ass, but tough as in he wanted us to make sure it was correct. You know, he would say things like, "I'm old school. I'm going to teach you old school." Like he, you know, tuning as an example is a lost art these days. And so he's like, "I'm going to teach you how to tune old school." So he would get me to tune high, and then I would have to pull the strings back into tune, not using the headstock at all. So, you know, he's like, you know, and he would make me tune just a little bit high as well because of how hard I would hit the strings, so that it would fall into tune. So yeah, well, I learned a lot from him. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah, man, cool. And then 2013, you guys put out Engineering the Enemy, an album of like remixes and stuff. Were there a few remixes out already that you kind of went, let's put these together, or would you like commission a bunch? Do you kind of have the idea to get them, you know?
Yeah, so we had a few friends who had remixed some stuff for us in the past, and it was also something that we enjoyed. We would often go to sort of like those metal clubs and those sort of goth clubs where that kind of music was always being played anyway, and it was something that we liked, but we, you know, as being a metal band, we would never do off our own back completely. So we were just talking about it and thought, hey, wouldn't it be a good idea if we could just get a few of these remixes together and sort of put them out as an album? And we kind of got a few friends who said they would be interested, and then we thought, okay, we can like run with this now. And we reached out to a few people in the industry who we knew and said, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. You know, would you be interested? And yeah, we got a lot of yes, I would be. And yeah, a lot of people came back and said, yeah, I want to do this. And people were choosing different songs. So the hardest part was actually sort of telling people which songs they could or couldn't do. We'd say, oh, we've actually got someone already doing this song. What about these ones? Yeah, it turned out to be something different. And it's still something that I enjoy listening to today as well. So yeah, we had fun listening to a lot of that was coming through.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And then 2014's Pariah comes out on Eclipse Records, a US label. How'd you hook up with Eclipse?
So hooking up with Eclipse was I don't want to give away too much of what they do, but we had submitted a song to a compilation CD that was going out in the US. I can't remember what magazine it was going out with, but it was a compilation CD. And the guy that was organizing it, he actually sent us a message afterwards saying, hey, I really liked your music, yada, yada, yada. And we weren't sure if it was just sort of like a template, like kind of, you know, thanks for sending through your music. I really kind of like it. And then we realized that this was not a mass sort of email. This was like directly to us. And he said, you know, not verbatim, but he said something like along the lines of, you know, I've got some friends who run some record labels over here. Would you be interested if I kind of pushed you guys forward? And of course we said, yeah, for sure, that'd be great. So he said, great, I'll forward it through. And then he came back to us and he said, so I've got a friend who's very interested. He's, you know, at Eclipse Records. And of course we'd heard of them as well. And he said, can you send them an email and put this as his subject line, which I won't reveal. And that way they know that it's from me and that I've kind of put you guys through. So we said, sure. So we sent off an email to Chris at Eclipse, and he came back to us with, you know, said he'd listened to it. He's listened to a few of our other songs, and he offered us a deal. So we looked at it. Obviously, we had some solicitors look at it as well. It all looked good, and yeah, we jumped on board.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And then 2021's As Above, So Below EP got like great reviews, and you guys hit 26 on the ARIA independent charts. You must have been pretty happy with that, man.
Yeah, yeah. It was, especially we'd had some time away from releasing new music anyway. We had a couple of lineup changes, and so we were quietly confident that the new music we'd been writing was a lot better than our previous stuff, and even just sort of production wise was we kind of gone to that sort of next level, and we were more mature in the writing, and so we were quietly confident that people would be sort of happy to hear it, but at the same time, you don't know if people have completely forgotten about you as well in that sort of time frame. So yeah, to get to 26 was really nice, and it was I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Relieving in a way to know that people were still sort of interested in us, because sometimes you just don't know, we get stuck in our own worlds. We all have day jobs. We all have, families and other issues that are going on. And sometimes you don't know if people are still paying attention. So it was great to see.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got your new EP coming out September. The As Within, So Without. It's the same producing team. Did you guys record a bunch of songs all together, or have you gone back with the same,
So we had recorded them all at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
And we knew what we were going to do back in when we were demoing. We'd spoken about this idea that it'd be sort of like chapter 1 and chapter 2. And we had a whole bunch of songs ready, and some of them we've decided not to release, at least just yet. And then we decided to go with what's on As Above, So Below, and what's on As Within, So Without. So we had it was always a plan to do that. So we recorded them all at the same time, and it's sort of chapter 1, chapter 2. And then we're now working on the next round. So yeah, we recorded at the same time.
Yeah, cool. So the first single, Slay For Me, you got the videos like out in the bush somewhere and the reflective images, all that stuff.
Yeah.
How does that come together? Like, do you guys have a chat and go, oh, this is what we're looking for? Or does somebody come in and say, I want to do this to your song,
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. Okay. We will, to varying degrees, have an idea of what we kind of want. This time around, we worked with the Blakely brothers. They're called their company's called Her Name Is Murder Productions. We'd worked with them a few times beforehand, and we'd always gone in with a really sort of strong idea of what we wanted, and they would work with that. This time around, we had sent them the song, and we said, "Hey guys, tell us what you think before we tell you what we think." Yeah. So they came back with this sort of, tripped out version of sort of reality, and what's it was just this sort of a mind trip of a video, and we thought that's a little bit different as opposed to the typical sort of video that we've done before. We also wanted to avoid having a band scene in it, like a regular band scene. One, because we'd done it all before, but also because I'd had 2 spinal fusions, and yeah, and I couldn't actually strap on a guitar. So we decided to do that to sort of show that, to sort of do something different, and also because I couldn't actually do a band scene at that point in time. So I was doped up on a lot of painkillers in that video. I probably shouldn't have been there, in all honesty. But we got through it, and it was a lot of fun. But I really like it when I watch it now, just because it is different and it doesn't have to have a band scene in it. We're just sort of walking around in this sort of dystopian sort of world, and it was a bit of a trip. But back to your original point, this time around, it was the Blakely brothers came up with the main gist, and then we sort of added on top of it, and got a few people that we knew to jump in the video. We had our mate Steve with his Camaro, which was fantastic in the video. It was his pride and joy, and we all loved it. You should have heard it in real life. It's just next level. Yeah, it was a great video.
Yeah, cool. And of course, the second single, Still Breathing, you got CJ from Thy Art Is Murder on there. Is he a mate of the band?
Yeah, so CJ, Ollie has known him for, I want to say, probably close to 20 years, maybe longer. And I've known CJ separate. I actually knew CJ before I knew Ollie. He and I actually dated two girls who were best friends, and so I've known him for quite a while as well. And so this was predating Thy Art, before he was in Thy Art. So we've known him a long time, and Ollie had back in the day had put vocals on CJ's band at the time's record. I don't know if they released it or if they didn't, but this is going back way back, like 15, 20 years ago. And so Ollie was talking to CJ on Facebook and kind of said something along the lines of, don't forget you owe me one or something. And they both had a bit of a laugh. And then CJ said, actually, if you want me to do something, I will. And Ollie kind of came to us and said, hey, what do you think if CJ's on one of the songs? And we're like, yeah, of course, like let's do it. So we kind of showed him a few of the roughs that we had going on, and kind of what kind of song would take your pick type thing. And that's the one he landed on, and they sort of worked on the vocals, and it came back brilliant. So yeah, we loved it, and I thought his vocals were fantastic. The hard thing to do now is to do that song live. I've got to do Chriso's vocals in it, so that's going to be difficult, but I hope to do him justice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you guys have Avatar support coming up, which is awesome. And you played with some pretty fantastic bands over the years. What's one or two that were like extra exciting? Were any of the bands you played with like bucket list bands,
Yeah, Static X for sure.
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, there's been some great bands we played with. I mean, Powerman 5000 were the nicest guys. Really, really nice, really down to earth, really easy to get along with. Static X was great because of a couple of things. There was an equipment issue at the side of stage where we had to sort of take our gear off and put it outside their change room, their backstage room. And then when they were trying to leave, you've got like Tony and Wayne trying to get through all of our stuff, and we're like, oh no, we've just put it like right in front of their door. And Tony's like, no, it's not your fault, it's all fine, don't worry about it, guys, it's like this happens to everyone. And we're like, okay, great. But the thing that happened to me is Wayne actually came to the venue through the back door, and I had wanted to have a cigarette. So I didn't want to go out through the front door because I would have had to have gone from the backstage area right through the crowd out to the front street. It was going to take ages. So I went to the back area, which was down some stairs and just sort of by the back door. And next thing, the door opens, the tour manager comes through, and Wayne and his girlfriend come through. And I just went, oh shit. So I just went into like autopilot mode, and I just said, hey man, I'm Matt from Our Last Enemy. Nice to meet you. He said, nice to meet you. He shook my hand, which was really nice. He didn't just sort of brush me off. And his girlfriend said hi. And he said, I hope you have a good show. I said, you too. And that was it. But there are people in this industry who just kind of give you the cold shoulder and walk past you. So I thought that was really nice, considering now that they've both passed away. It was nice to know that they were good people. Dope were great as well. They were really nice and accommodating. So we've had mostly like 99% good experiences with the bigger bands that come through.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah.
So away from Our Last Enemy for a bit, what are you listening to these days?
What am I listening to at the moment? Man, I get a little disgruntled with a lot of the more modern music that's coming out at the moment. So I find myself sort of going back in time for a lot of things. So what was the last thing I was listening to? It was I was listening to Korn Follow the Leader because it was the 25th anniversary. So I was listening to that. In terms of what else was there? Yeah, it was Korn. And then I've just been listening to a lot of like random noise, and we're also demoing at the moment, so my ears are getting sort of burnt out from listening to sort of other music. And the other thing is, I try not to be influenced. It might sound a bit wanky, but I try not to be influenced by like something I hear, even if it comes in subliminally. So at the moment I'm just listening to old stuff that I really sort of grew up on, and then just a whole bunch of demos, because there'll be stuff that I'm doing, stuff that Wade's doing, and sometimes it's not even a whole song, man. It's just one riff, and then we go, okay, what are we going to do with that? So that's mostly what I've been listening to at the moment.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And so one last question for you. Obviously
Sure.
you got the EP coming out, but we're 17 years in at this point, pretty much.
Yeah.
What's next for Our Last Enemy?
So we've got a new video coming out soon. That'll be out. I'm really bad with dates, man. But that will be out mid-September ish.
Okay.
Yeah. With and then of course the new EP comes out. We're writing to obviously the follow-up. Whether we do another sort of twin EPs or a full album, we're not sure at the moment.
Okay.
We plan to do some shows in Newcastle and Wollongong, which are coming up. I don't have the dates on me, but they'll be on our social media soon. We're going to do a Sydney show for Halloween coming up. Then we plan to sort of go to Brisbane, Melbourne, Adelaide. And then since my back is a lot better, we're going to probably go and do a tour in Europe.
Oh,
but
cool.
that's just sort of the early sort of conversations at the moment. So I haven't got too much more detail on that. And then other than that, we'll just keep trying to get play with as many other bands as we can, and just keep making more music.
Yeah, too easy. Sounds good to me, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, thanks for your time. Have a good one, man.
Last up, we got Brendan from All This Filth. All This Filth are a Perth band that's been around since 2008. A lot of lineup changes and stuff, but Brendan's still there. And their new album, Tomorrow Will Be Better, came out Feb 9th, just a few days ago, and is currently streaming and available wherever you get your music.
Yeah, interesting question. I mean, sort of similar to how we've done the last couple albums. We basically just work on the basis someone will come in with an idea, like a riff or something like that, and pitch it to us, and then we'll like work on that, like record it, and then start placing it and and then we might jam it out and work on it like that. Thematically for me though, like, because obviously I'm the vocalist, I do all the lyrics and such. So this album sort of thematically picks up exactly where the last album, Misery Season, left off. So that album was sort of, Misery Season just thematically was about just getting through the hard times. It was almost a concept album. Like I didn't set out to do a concept album, but it sort of start to finish sort of ended up just being a concept album. And then sort of Misery Season is sort of just the hard times. They come and they go like seasons, right? So that album was about surviving some really dark times, right? And then so you get to the end of that album, and the last song was called I Am the Fortress, which is about sort of just standing tough against all odds and such. And then this album literally picks up exactly where I Am the Fortress left off. So you get through all that, you get through all the hard stuff, and then it's sort of like, well, what now? What do I do now? How do I keep going forward? Because seasons come and go, and like hard times will come and go again and again, over and over again. So how do you keep getting back up after things keep coming at you? You keep getting knocked down, and even internally and externally. So like, how do you survive the battles within when there's so much shit going on in the world that's terrible as well? Whether you look in the mirror and you're like, oh man, things are really tough, things are really bad, and I'm really struggling. And then you can turn on the TV or have a look on the phone, and you're just bombarded with terrible shit as well. And you're just bombarded from every angle. And it's sort of about trying to work out a way of how to get through that. So yeah, literally picks up right from there.
Cool. Is that something you discuss with the band, like what you want to do thematically or lyric wise?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Like with songs, like I'll come up and say I want to write a song about this. I need the riffs or the keys to have this sort of vibe or whatever. So sometimes I'm like, I need this sort of vibe, I need a dark vibe, I need an aggressive vibe, a la, and then I list a few reference bands or whatever. And then we go from there. But like I said, sometimes the guys come to me as well with like, I've got this riff, or I've got this idea, I've got a drum beat or whatever. So we sort of just go with whoever's got the hot hand.
Yeah, cool. And I read you guys signed to Brutal Records, yeah, US label based in Louisiana. How'd you get together with those guys?
So we were sort of like shopping around. Like we finished the recording for the album about a year or so ago. It's a long time. It's been a long process. And then we really wanted to get some help, like getting into different markets, because we do all right here in WA and we do okay in Australia, but we wanted to really push ourselves overseas. So we thought we need some help with that. So we were, talking to some PR people, some label people and such, and just sort of being like sending them like links, Dropbox links with like, here's some songs that they were at various stages of being mixed from the new album, and also some stuff from the last album, and sending them the EPK and such. So yeah, we really were just shopping around like that, and they got back to us and said they were interested, and then we went and had the negotiations back and forwards on Zoom. With the time difference and all, it was pretty interesting. So yeah, we just sort of went like that. Basically, we were just shopping around, and they were interested, and we came to an agreement.
Yeah, cool, man. So yeah, the single "Still Bleeds My Heart" came out in November last year. So was the album done when you guys put that one out?
Yeah, well, I think we'd finished all of the recording, and some of the mixing and mastering had been done, but not all of it, because the album had only the mixing and mastering only got finished earlier this year in like March or something this year, February, March this year. It finally got finished. Late last year we'd finished recording, doing all the tracking. So there was a couple songs we got, we sort of started having mixed, and Still Bleeds My Heart was one of them. We said, oh, we want to release that as a single to sort of whet everyone's appetite. That will be on the new album. We were toying with the idea of making it a standalone single, but it will definitely be on the new album. But yeah, so we did a video clip for that and released that November last year.
And then now we've got the new single, It's Never Gonna Be Okay. Tell us about that one. What made you guys decide to go with that one for the the next single off this album?
Yeah, why did we go with that? Good question. No, we sort of just sat down with I sat down with the rest of the band. A lot of those guys are new members as well. We had a big lineup shift at the start of this year. And we listened to the album together and and individually, and we sort of pinpointed everyone's favorite tracks on the album, and decided like this song is actually the first song on the album, so it's the opening track. So we decided to go with that, do a lyric video for that and release that as the sort of second single to this album, just to get everyone into sort of the vibe, and like sort of this is the intro to the album, because it's literally the intro to the album basically.
Yeah, it makes sense. Cool. And I saw like you guys supported Powerman 5000. Yeah, how was that? That must have been a good show,
Yeah, that was really good. That was a good day actually. It was earlier this year in January. That was a good fun day. Long day, had to load in early and such, but yeah, it's quite good. Gig went well. Rosemount, great sound. The dudes from Powerman were actually really nice. Like, it's not like we hung out with them the whole time, but they were nice with their time, and especially Spider, he was really cool, and we got some photos done with him. Had to do that. But yeah, they were cordial. They were really nice, and it was a good show, good experience all over.
Yeah, cool, man. And I saw you got some Ministry gear behind you there. You're a Ministry fan, man?
Yeah, I am a big Ministry fan. I love my industrial metal Ministry and Fear Factory and all that sort of stuff. So I get into that. But yeah, Ministry, a big influence on me.
Yeah, cool. What else have you been listening to lately? Any other bands?
Oh, okay. So behind me as well, like there's a Chimera vinyl as well. Like, I'm a massive Chimera fan. Not that I've been listening to them lately, but they're doing a comeback apparently, which I'm pretty excited for. Hopefully they release some new stuff. But of the newer stuff that's coming out, there's a new industrial metal band been out the last few years called Three Teeth. And they're pretty cool. They got sort of like a Ministry, like earlier, heavier Marilyn Manson vibe sort of thing, like that. If you get into that industrial metal, but like got fat grooves to it as well. It's quite good. They just released an album. What's the album called? It's called Index this year. They got a song on it called Acme Death Machine. I'd highly recommend checking that album. And the album before, Meta War, as well, was really good. So yeah, Three Teeth, one I've been listening to. New In Flames came out earlier this year, which was quite good as well. Skindred, if you get into it. I'm actually not the biggest Skindred fan, but I really like the new album, and they're really good live. Right. But there's always new stuff coming out to check out, whether it be from older, more established bands or new and up and coming bands and such, like Three Teeth and such.
Yeah, cool. I saw too you guys got a few great shows coming up. You got Sunbury and Killfest in Kilmore. That's a good one with Dr. Colossus and a bunch of other great bands there.
Yeah. So we actually are leaving for Victoria on Thursday. So in 2 days' time, we're taking off. We've got 3 shows in Victoria. The Friday, whatever the Friday is this. What's the date in Friday this week? It's a date today. So I want to say it's going to be like 24th or whatever. Yeah, 24th.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
So the 24th on the Friday will be in Sunbury, with some great bands. We got Knife, an industrial metal band. Then there's Coffin Carousel, Rautism, and Distorter, all bands local to Victoria, Melbourne, or Ballarat. So that's great. That's on the Friday. Then we got Killfest in Kilmore on the Saturday, which is going to be killer. Like you said, Dr. Colossus, Nicolas Cage Fighter, heaps of really cool bands there. And then on the Sunday, we've got a show in Fitzroy at the Workers Club, which is just going to be us, Coffin Carousel, and Distorter as Tiger Drivers. Literally just today, we just found out they've had to pull out of the gig, which is unfortunate, but that's what's happening. And then when we get back later, well, on Monday, and then on the Friday, December 1st, we got a show in Perth at our hometown, which is our annual Christmas show, Filthy Christmas, and we'll be dropping a new single and a new video clip on that day as well. So Friday, December 1st at Badlands, which, by the way, will be our last ever gig at Badlands because they're shutting that place down, which is a real shame because it's a fantastic venue. We played Storm Rider Festival there earlier this year and many other great gigs at Badlands. So it's such a shame they're having to shut. But Badlands, Friday, December 1st. And then that's our last gig for the year. And then next year we're heading to Queensland, January 6th for Monk and Pedal Festival. So we're busy, and then the album comes out February. So it's non-stop, man. I'm tired just thinking about it, actually. But
yeah, that's a pretty big energy run, man. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Have you guys ventured over east much before?
Yeah, actually, we went to we did a short run of dates, 3 dates in New South Wales. It was our first run over east. It was in early 2020. I don't know if you remember much about 2020. See, the problem, we had planned some touring, but in early 2020, there was the coronavirus had just started kicking off. And as we went over there, it was actually the best and worst time to go because I don't know if you remember, but 2019, then those massive bushfires in New South Wales as well, which the smoke covered the whole earth and all that. So we went over there as the fires were still going, and then it started raining. So by the time we got there, it literally just rained the entire time we were there. And then they went from having fires to floods. So everything started being flooded. But also that Ruby Princess had pulled into port in Sydney, and coronavirus started kicking off. So while we were over there, people had started panic buying and such, which they hadn't back here in WA at the time anyway. So we got over there and we're like, we can't get any chicken, we can't get any bottled water, and where's all the hand sanitizer? There was things off the shelf gone, and we're like, well, this is weird. Like, what's going on here? Like, we knew that there was there was the coronavirus kicking around, and we're thinking, Jesus, And so we literally finished those run of dates, got back to Perth, and within like the next fortnight, lockdown, and then the next few years, is history, as they say. So we didn't get a chance to finish off the rest of our planned touring, and that was for the Misery Season album. So we basically had to, like a lot of bands, cut our plans short and our touring cycle for that album. And that's when we just were like, well, we may as well start writing for the next one because we couldn't play any gigs. We were lucky here in WA though. I mean, we could play gigs intermittently and more often than bands from over east or anywhere else in the world. So best place to be was Perth for sure. But that being said, like I said, we couldn't get out of Perth. So it was a double-edged. So it was great to be able to play here, but sucked that we couldn't get out. But there was bigger things at play. There was a pandemic going on, so you can't really complain when there's people dying out there. It's not a big deal that we couldn't play gigs in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, surely. So obviously, you're signed to a US label now. Is there any chance of getting over there to play some shows?
Well, hopefully we have spoken to them about that. But as you could probably appreciate, travel at the moment, post-pandemic, is actually super expensive. Even just going over east for these runner dates is really, really expensive just with the flights. We also just signed with a European booking agency, Redline Music.
Cool.
So we're looking to head to Europe next year as well. So we're just sussing some things out for that. But yeah, international touring is definitely on our to-do list. Whether it happens will depend on, finances and multiple factors. But we definitely want to be doing it. It's on our to-do list, and we're making steps to make it happen. So yeah, if any promoters out there in the States or Europe want to hit us up and bring us over there, we're definitely keen.
Yeah, cool, man. And I guess lastly, you were saying the new single out on the 1st of December. What kind of thing can we look forward to with that one?
Okay, so this one's actually pretty exciting because A, we got a video clip for it, but B, it's slightly different to a lot of the stuff we have that we're previously known for. I mean, it's still groovy. It's got big fat grooves to it. But it was the first, like I said, some of the guys bring ideas, and this one was Benny, who at the time was our keyboardist, but he also plays bass, and now he's back on bass and keys. So, jack of many trades. But anyways, he had this bass riff, and he pitched to us, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Almost sort of Tool-esque, but sort of not Tool-esque, but in that sort of vein. And then our guitarist at the time, Mark, took it away. He came up with a riff, and then we wrote a song based around those two ideas. And it came together pretty well. But it's got a different vibe. So like, It's Never Gonna Be Okay is more like your typical like really aggressive pop 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 ATF in your face, which is cool and all, bit of groove. Fast groove. That's sort of our bread and butter. And this one here is a bit more like Drowning, but different. It's got more space. It's got more groove. It's a bit slower, but like I wouldn't say it's slow. It's still aggressive. It's still ATF, but it's different to a lot of songs in the album. So I'm actually pretty excited to release this one and play this one live because I think it might get some heads moving. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome, man. Cool. Look, best of luck with the tour, man. And hopefully we'll see some dates overseas soon, man.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us on here, and thanks for your support, and really appreciate it. And hit us up anytime. We'll have to catch up once the album's out and see how it's going.
Yeah, too easy, man. Definitely. All right, have a good one, man.
All right, you too. Cheers, man.
See ya. Thank you very much for watching the extended show. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed it. You would have seen on the channel recently an interview with Angelus Apatrida. That was cool to talk to them just before they hit Australian shores. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more interviews more frequently, I do the audio podcast every single Wednesday, Nightbreed Metal Radio. Links below, but that's streaming wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can subscribe right here on YouTube for more metal interviews and metal music. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see you around.